Episode titles starting with the letter U to Z.
Episode titles starting with the letter P to T.
Episode titles starting with the letter K to O.
Episode titles starting with the letter F to J. Episode titles starting with the letter A to E. Annie's solo mission. The birthday balloons.
The birthday machine.
A brand new outfit.
Brothers and sisters to the rescue.
The Christmas wish. Dragon kite. Duck, duck, June.
John Atkinson Grimshaw may have loved trains, but he loved painting even more. When he was 24 years old, he quit his job working for the Great Northern Railway in England to paint full-time.
Growing baby ducks might be cramped inside those eggs, but at least they get plenty of fresh air. If you look closely at a duck egg, you'll see there are tiny holes in the shell for air to pass through. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart wrote his famous horn concertos for his close friend, Joseph Ignaz Leitgeb. Since Joseph's horn didn't have any valves, he changed the notes by changing the shape of his mouth when he blew into the horn.
Did you know that the largest group of freshwater lakes in the world is in the United States? That's right. In fact, 20% of the Earth's fresh water is located in the Great Lakes.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was born on January 27, 1756. The same year that St. Patrick's Day was celebrated for the first time in New York City. They may not be able to fly as soon as they hatch from their shells, but baby ducklings are born with sea legs. Ducklings will follow their mother into the water for their first swimming lesson hours after they come out of their shells.
John Atkinson Grimshaw's watercolor on the River Greta was painted in the Lake District on the coast of England, which was a popular vacation place for artists and writers. Zhang Lu is famous for creating his art using ink on paper, silk, or scrolls. Some of his art is black and white, while other paintings use a few colors. The Great Wall of China is the longest man-made structure in the world. In fact, it is so long that you can actually see it from the Earth's orbit up in space.
Zhou Ying painted his art in the early 1500s. Today, he is considered to be one of the 4 great masters of the Ming Dynasty.
While Zhou Zhan's 8 views of the Shao and Shang rivers is a painting, it wasn't created on a canvas like most paintings. Zhou Zhan painted his masterpiece on 6 panels of a big folding screen more than 5 feet high and 10 feet wide. K2 is the second highest mountain in the world. Only Mount Everest is higher.
Edvard Grieg wrote his famous suite number 1 in the Hall of the Mountain King for the play Peer Gynt. But years later, Grieg himself was the subject of a play. The operetta Song of Norway opened on Broadway in 1944 and told the story of Grieg's life.
Saja was born around 1721, the same year that Johann Sebastian Bach composed his famous Brandenburg Concerto. Even though it's a museum today, the Forbidden City used to be home to royalty in China many years ago. It must have been a great place to play hide and seek. There are more than 8,000 rooms in the palace.
The name of Ludwig van Beethoven's famous song, For Elise, means for Elise in English. But who was the Elise he wrote it for? To this day, nobody knows the answer. Lincoln Center was started in the 1960s to be a place for singers, dancers, musicians, and actors to get together in the heart of New York City. Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world. Would you believe it's almost 5 miles high?
Ludwig van Beethoven was composing piano music by the time he was a teenager. He wrote 3 sonatas for the harpsichord when he was only 13 years old.
When Vincent van Gogh was painting The Starry Night, he was trying to paint a masterpiece that was as good as the work of artist Paul Gauguin. He must have succeeded. Today, Van Gogh is one of the most famous artists of all time.
Back. The Champs-Élysées in Paris used to be nothing but fields and gardens, but it was replaced with a tree-lined pathway more than 300 years ago. Today, that pathway has turned into one of the most famous streets in the world.
The Himalayas is a range of snow-capped mountains in Asia that includes the highest peak in the world, Mount Everest. The word Himalaya means home of snow.
The Black Forest is the name of a forest in southwestern Germany, and the region is known for its Black Forest ham, honey, and delicious Black Forest cake. Though Hansel and Gretel was written in the early 1800s, it still remains one of the most famous fairy tales in the world.
Ludwig van Beethoven's Symphony No. 5 took more than 4 years to write, and when it was presented to the public for the first time in 1808, the performance took more than 4 hours. When German folk artists first came to America in the 1600s, many settled in Pennsylvania, where they continued their artistic traditions and created a new form of Pennsylvania Dutch folk art.
Perhaps the Black Forest is best known for being the home of the cuckoo clock. German folk artists hand-carved the cuckoo clocks out of wood and then painted and decorated them to look ornate.
Much of German folk art involved creating things out of wood, such as furniture, carvings, and even toys. In fact, before it became a big business in the U.S., toy making was a traditional form of German folk art. The familiar first four notes of Beethoven's Symphony No. 5 are da-da-da-dum, which is actually Morse code for the letter V. During World War II, the BBC used the musical notes to stand for victory.